Hey everyone, how you doing today? Thought I'd show you the work in progress here on this Star Citizen CV. Trying to be the Hercules, but it's kind of different, but has some elements of it. And it is coming along pretty good. Now I got my camera's FOV set to 40 right now. I'm trying to be all extra cinematic in the first part of the video just for the heck of it. Thought I'd see how it worked out. But I did finish up the hull. Got a lot of changes were made along the way too. I rebuilt parts of it again. I had a big struggle with the landing gear, and I finally got that worked out and whatnot. Let me show it. Let me get over to the back of the ship here, show you what's going on. I did increase the thruster count on this as well, so it actually has 8 forward thrusters now. I kind of wanted to do that on the last video as well. You can kind of see what the back end of the ship is looking like. I'll show you some iterations of the ship before this version too. And then I rebuilt these wingtips. I actually dumped 2 thrusters out in the outer wingtips. I did increase its lift thrust to 10. So it's got like a 4-pack of lift thrusters there and a couple more in the front section of the ship. But yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I've been trying to clean up the hull that was there already too, and it's getting pretty smooth. And light texturing. I had to kind of go along with the structural frame blocks that this is using an awful lot of in the build. There's a lot of regular blocks too, but a lot of things are structural frame blocks in here, trying to make up the shapes and stuff like that. I did increase the turret count on here a little bit as well. I think I got all the turrets retracted right now. I'll get those out in a bit here. But yeah, you can kind of get the general idea on what this is looking like. And one of the more important views too is trying to get the side view looking decent. And I always worry about that on creations. It's one of the harder profiles or views of a creation to make look right. I realized that when I was building ships in the past. Often you could, I could come up with a design that looks pretty good top down, but then when you look at the side of it, it's like, eh. So I've been trying to work out that too, and trying to get some of the proportions a little bit more dialed in. So here, let me just show you. Here, I'll correct the camera too. That's a little weird. I just thought I'd try it. So this is what I changed here. Normally it would be at 60. And I had it at 40 just to have it give it that zoomed in effect, I suppose. So after the last video when I showed this ship and I didn't have the back or the bottom of the ship done, this is what I started doing right after that was coming up with a thruster assembly here for the back and trying to figure out how I was going to do the hangar door and stuff like that, and a little bit of this block work up at the top. So this was my first try. And I didn't like this very much. I was trying to do the thrusters similar to the front of the ship at a 22.5 degree angle, but there's no supporting blocks over here that I can make any kind of trim ring around here at a 22.5 degree angle. Both thin and half blocks are lacking the basic blocks to do this shaping. Kind of wish they were in the game. That would open up some more possibilities for sure. But and then I was looking at it and I'm like, well, why am I trying to do these thrusters at a 22.5 degree angle in the first place when the wingtips over here are actually at a 45 degree angle? And I was like, well, that's just stupid. So I scrapped that idea, and then I went out to the next version here, and this one's got filled in more. So I changed the thruster housings to a 45 degree, and then of course there's blocks that I could put in there to make like little trim rings or something around the thrusters. And my first setup, I actually had 3 of these in a row, but that looked kind of big and bulky and kind of dumb. So I scrapped the one, and I decided to put a secondary thruster in the wingtips. So then, which is actually kind of a good thing anyway. It helps a little bit with the performance in some of the stats, like with your yaw and things like that. So it was a little bit helpful to do that anyway. So then I started addressing the landing gear on here, and this was another nightmare. I went through a lot of revisions on this. So to start with, let me just show you the older version over here again. and this ramp comes down to this level. Unfortunately, and I didn't quite realize this, that it doesn't appear that there's any CV landing gear that can go down more than one block. So that means you got to have the landing gear like literally one block above the ground, which kind of sucks. SVs have some options where you got some taller landing gear, and CVs for whatever reason don't seem to have that. And then I was thinking, um, sorry, this game just loves to do those kinds of things. I guess it has no fuel in it, maybe. Yeah, probably. So it's gonna fall when I look at it, but not when I'm not looking at it. So weird. But anyway, my first attempt at landing gear to make all that work was to, well, I kind of built the bottom of the ship, but the bottom of the ship is way higher than where I needed the landing gear to be. So I built these little like landing gear pod things so I could drop them down far enough to the ground to be able to, have that ramp work. But then I thought it was like, wow, that's kind of pudgy, and I don't really like that very much either. So then on the latest version here, I sort of split the difference, and it's one block lower to the ground than what that last one was, which helped a little bit. Then I ran into a new problem with it, and that was when I would land. This would be a good example looking at this one. This obviously has a very long neck in front of the first landing gear, and the first landing gear was located here. And what would happen when I would land on a flat surface is the ship would often like these front landing gear would touch, and then when you push down to like dock, the nose of the ship would dive down to the ground, and the back landing gear would like come up off from the ground, and it was just kind of teetering on the front landing gear. And due to obviously the landing gear are way back here, and the ship extends way up there, so that was causing a problem. So then on this one here, I had to do some more modifications to it to fix that. And what I ended up doing is a number of things. One, I actually made the center of the ship one block longer. So I cut the whole back of the ship off right around the seam line here, and then kind of refilled in all the blocks in between it just to make it a little bit longer. And then I also increased the tail length by one block as well. So it's a little bit longer than the previous version. But then beyond that, I also took and I built up this little moundy thing here, which I'm not super happy with, but it allowed me to put the front landing gear a couple more blocks forward. So in the combination of doing all those things, kind of having more separation between the front and the rear landing gear, having the front landing gear forward, that problem has gone away pretty much now. So when you land, it doesn't seem to want to do that tip the nose forward kind of thing anymore. With the little bit longer hull, just slightly, doesn't look much different. It's hard to really notice a difference, but it's stretched out just a little bit more than what it was on the last version. And I think it just, again, it helps it a little bit. I've been debating whether or not I should make it another block longer yet. But for the most part, this worked, and I'm pretty happy with the length of it. I didn't want to try to make this thing too big either. So also in this process here, I ended up having to change the ramps that I had on here, and I had to lower this whole front hangar door down another block and use smaller ramp pieces that didn't go down as far, so it would line up to the ground correctly underneath the landing gear. Now, one thing I don't like is the force fields that it draws in, and I can't do anything about it, but it looks kind of kind of wish there was airtight parts that didn't feel obligated to draw these force fielding lines in there. I really don't want to see them, but it works, and that's just one of those things. I can't really do anything about it. I could use non-airtight ramp pieces, but then I need this to be airtight inside, and if I didn't have those, then I would have to put in some other kind of force field, which would do the same thing anyway, so there's not really a point in it. So other than that, as in its stats and weapons and other stuff, pretty decent right now. I'm kind of happy with it. So its guns, it currently has 12 retractable minigun turrets. Not that these are going to be the end game turrets or anything like that, but to shoot down the drones and everything, and they're fairly cheap. And I wanted to run retractables so you can hide them on a smooth hull like this. I kind of like the Proxima. I didn't want all the turrets visible where you can see all this stuff. I'm trying to keep this looking kind of aerodynamic and whatnot. And of course you have your 8 advanced laser cannons and 8 artillery cannons on here. As in its motion, with the increased amount of thrust power, it's 104 forward, 39 strafing, 130 on lift, 52 reverse, and 52 down. So not too bad. CPU-wise, with all this stuff equipped, now there's one major part that the ship does not have in it yet, and that is the shield. But it does have a warp drive, although it's a cheap one, I think. But anyway, the CPU equipped with all the thrusters plus all the artillery launchers and whatnot is coming out to this number here, which is pretty manageable actually. And I say that because I want to release this as a Core 9 ship. So I've got a lot of options on things I can remove from it stock right now and keep it within that 2.1 million CPU. Obviously, I can definitely remove some artillery launchers, but I also got this 4-pack of thrusters over here that I may remove 2 of the 4 in this set and just kind of in the middle, and then just kind of give you placeholders to put in additional thrusters later on. Of course, you do have the lift thrusters up in the front area too to just kind of visually balance out, so it kind of looks like it would not flop over when you took off, things like that. And I'm trying to think of anything else. I did harden up the. I left the warp drive where it was, but I did put a layer of armored glass over it, and I'm going to swap out these blocks. I realized I put in carbon right there, and I wanted them to be something a little bit better than that. There's another block row on the inside here too that I need to actually change the the block parts for, get a little more hit points in there. So I'm leaving the warp drive here, but I'm trying to make it tougher, essentially. As in the placement of long-range radar, I don't know exactly where I'm going to put it yet. My first plan was to put it here, but I don't really want to see it on the top of the ship right here. I kind of like these really thin blocks, so I might find an alternative location to put the long-range radar. I did want that on there. Now, to any vanilla users, this ship, there's going to be no vanilla version of this ship. It's impossible. It's built of primarily of blocks that vanilla doesn't have in the game. All these structural frame blocks here, so it just cannot be translated to vanilla without, well, pretty much rebuilding the whole hull, and it won't come out the same because you couldn't do the angles. It would be something else. So there will be no vanilla version of the ship. Sorry about that. There's just really nothing I can do about it. It'd be great if vanilla would adopt some of the features that are in Reforged Eden, and that would increase what vanilla is capable of doing, which would be great. But other than that, yeah, no vanilla version. If I get all the guns out, oh, not thrusters. There we go. You kind of see what it looks like with the guns out. I got turrets in various places, and the turrets on this ship aren't really part of its combat design, really. It's more focused on your fixed weapons, doing all the shield and hull damage, and the turrets are just kind of there, maybe help out a little bit and shoot down the nearby drones and stuff like that. I did actually get 4 turrets on the bottom side of the ship. A couple of these are in kind of weird locations, but they sit far enough off the ground, so when you're parked on the ground, they could shoot, any intruders trying to come in on the ground or something like that. And then there's a couple more turrets I put back in the back part of the ship here. I did do the bottom of the ship up too. It's got some bubbly block things here. Of course, just trying to add in some form of detail there. Inside the ship here, the hangar is it's not super big, but I think it'll be definitely usable. You got kind of a main crossway that goes between the front and rear hangar doors, but off to the sides here, I'm going to try to keep all this space open for landing pads, like maybe about 4 landing pads off the side of the central hangar. So that's kind of my plan. Other plans I've got for the interior, and I did make mention of this last time. I did want this one to have a secure bridge, and that will probably be somewhere around this location, as well as some form of elevator to get you to the different floors of it. And this would connect up to the landing pad pretty easily over there. So it's going to have that. For part upgrade slots and things, I wanted to make sure that it could store at least 2 more advanced generators than what it needs stock. So I'll probably have 2 extra slots for advanced generators. I do plan on addressing and trying to put in as many medium and small shield parts as I can in the ship, or at least placeholders or places to put them. One other thing I wanted to get into the ship too is I got a lot of weird areas out on these wingtips that would be kind of hard to do too much with the interior with anyway. So I was planning on building some areas to just put solar panels, so you can dump in interior solar panels. And I don't know how many I'll get in here yet. The more the merrier, but that's kind of the idea in some of these wacky areas way off to the sides over here. So shield parts, solar panel pieces, extra generators, and I also wanted to at least get in a 54 grow plot farm. I think would be helpful as well. And again, I got to put in the main shield here somewhere too. I kind of like the fact that the warp drive is way out of the way over here, which is kind of neat. So I don't have to place that somewhere in here and build up, walls to keep you from getting radiation and stuff from the warp drive. It is possible. I thought about trying to do a bit of a second deck on part of the hangar, like especially this front area. Like maybe I could make this into some kind of landing pad here. That is a possibility. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. I guess it's going to depend on how everything else comes out. So yeah, the next stage now is to basically get the interior rolling. Yeah, that's how it's coming out right now. I'm pretty geeked. It is definitely the smoothest design I think I've made. I've always tried to, especially with like SV types of creations, I've really always tried to be kind of smooth with them. And it's the whole aerodynamic thing. SVs I view as typically a fighter type of craft, or something that flies in the atmosphere. And things that fly in the atmosphere really should be aerodynamic looking. And I've got some flaws here, obviously. Like I hate this over here, like this solid 90-degree wall facing you. Not good for aerodynamics, but it's the only way I can pull off trying to do this angled oval shape for the front thrusters, which was basically because the Hercules was doing that, and I was trying to sort of mimic it. But again, that's probably the part I like the least, but you don't see it a lot, typically speaking. Some of the things I do like, especially about using these structural frame blocks, so it's just the utter smoothness that I'm able to get using a combination of the structural frame blocks, as well as a lot of different angled set blocks in the mix, like trying to make this whole front area very, very roundish. And I especially like the structural frame blocks, so like doing these angles, you're just not able to do with the standard blocks. And that helps everything smooth out. Another thing that I did do from the past rendition too is I did rebuild these wingtips, so they're a little bigger and a little more complex than they were on the past version. Part of that was because I also dumped in more thrusters in there, and I'm really trying to hide these thrusters. I originally wasn't planning on putting any thrusters there, but it just made sense to put them there. It helps with performance and things like that too. So anyway, that is where I'm at with the ship. I just wanted to get a video out and show you what's been taking place so far. If you got any ideas or suggestions, please let me know. I'm trying to work this the best I can, and even if I gotta just modify or do more mods to the hull and fix it up and stuff like that, I'll just keep on working at it. I'm going to be really, really picky on this one. I just want to, try to make it best I know how to possibly do. and not compromise on anything. And I'll try to be the same way with the interior. In fact, with this ship too, being Star Citizen and whatnot, I'll probably I might make a couple of my own LCDs, but I may take some LCDs that were put in some of these LCD packs that I've recently looked at. Another one by Alicia, plus there's other ones by Solusticor and other people. I might go through them and try to use some of those really well done LCDs in the mix. Or yeah, Crazy Z, that's another one that's made a lot of these LCDs. So I think that would look kind of good in here too. But then again, I may try to make some of my own LCDs. I've got some ideas on how I want to stylize the hanger and stuff. And it's different than any past creations that I made, really. I guess the way this is colored and textured, the only creation I think that I've made along these lines in the past, I don't know if I should, is that Intrepid. Do I have it? Oh, wait, what was it? MLV? Oh, I'm looking at CVs. That's not going to help. Intrepid. Yes, MLV Intrepid. So, yeah, this one's a similar color. Actually, I think this is using a brighter white yet, but this is that one ship I made a long time ago now that trying to sort of emulate a Crazy Z design, but it's different. It's different. So yeah, similar color schemes to this. This one's a little brighter white. I'm now kind of curious of what this would look like if it was brighter white too. There is one notch up I could go on the color. Again, if you're unfamiliar with structural frame blocks, last thing I just wanted to say is there's a few caveats to using these things. One, they can only be painted with default color palette colors. So if I try to paint it anything custom, it will not come out to that color. Number two, when you paint a structural frame block, there is no painting one side or the other side. The whole thing gets painted the same color. There is no texturing these. They have this texture. That's all you can do with it. So you are limited there. One last thing I just wanted to bring in and throw out there with the here. Let me get the HUD on and some structural frame blocks here. And when you go through the list here, you're seeing like right or left versions of a lot of these blocks. Some can be rotated around and work either way, but some cannot. When you're placing these blocks, you pretty much got to have symmetry on. If you don't, and say you wanted to put in like one of these pieces, like this larger kind of wedge-shaped block that fits in and has a flat edge on the top, it's only going to show up in one side or the other. But if you place it on, say, this side, it will put the appropriate version on the other side. But you can only place it on one side of the ship. You can't rotate it around to make it work. So you got to keep on jogging back and forth between one side of the ship in symmetry versus the other side, and then it'll come out right. So I wanted to throw that out there. It was one other thing that I think is useful to know if you're going to work with the structural frame blocks. So plan on a creation that's made in symmetry if you're going to use them. If you're trying to do asymmetrical something with it and you wanted like this certain wedge block over here, like this one here or something like that, it may only be for the other side of the creation, and that could make it kind of rough. So I wouldn't really honestly try to make a asymmetrical structural frame block type of creation like what this one is. I think that would be a nightmare to try to build it. It's possible, but it's just nightmarish. That's the only thing. You'd have to do a lot of extra steps. You'd have to figure out where the symmetry line would be on the other side and then place the appropriate version to put the right one in place. It could be done. I'm just saying it would be complicated and kind of frustrating probably to do it that way. So other than that, that's all I've got for today. I just wanted to show you where I'm at with this build. I kind of wanted to do that yesterday, but I ran out of time. And not to mention, I did get some more work done since yesterday anyway. So yeah, this is a better version to show than what I had yesterday. One last thing I did do too is I for the heck of it. This is a little bit older version of it, where I didn't stretch it out a couple of blocks longer and things like that. But yeah, I converted it to a SV just to see what it looked like in SV form, and it pretty much looks the same, just smaller. But yeah, that can be done. And the amazing thing about converting this to an SV is it totally works. Again, this is going to show in bright red, for an illegal build because I didn't convert like all the thrusters over or the blocks or any other CV parts on here. But literally, the game totally knows how to make it work, and everything on here is fine, and it flies. It's got like the same stats flying around as the CV version, or at least at this iteration of it, and the same price as well. But it totally works in game. So, there was this debate on whether or not you could use a SV as your like home base or use it like a CV, and we kind of came to the conclusion that no, you can't, because SVs are lacking required essential parts like advanced constructors and the capabilities of doing farming or deconstructing or the storage that you'd really want to have in game, stuff like that. But it could be done if you were cheating. Well, not really cheating, but just took a CV and converted it to an SV. Like if I did this and then I wanted to do the interior on this, obviously it would be a totally different interior ship. Let me get out of God mode and just show you how big the player is in relation to all this. Yeah, so you can still get around, and the ship is still pretty roomy. It'd be kind of neat to see how it would come out as if it were a SV. But the amazing thing is it totally works. Everything about it, even the CV pilot seat is working, which kind of surprised me on that note. Like I can get up here and I can take this thing off, and yeah, there we are. Flying. I couldn't even tell the difference if I was in a SV or CV right now. Be honest, it's just but it works. So that'd be interesting. I just thought of that as like it'd be kind of a weird, like say the developers of Project Eden, Reforged Eden, put in some weird option to allow this kind of build, or only this kind of build, or like CVs were gone and all CVs were SVs. I don't know. It's just this is the only way I could think to make a SV capable of being your main ship, your base, your exploration vessel, your combat vessel, your farming, your production, your hangar, all that fun stuff. It could be done, but you'd pretty much have to use or convert a CV to an SV to pull it off. And then it's going to be illegal unless you swap out remove all the CV parts out of it, and then it's going to suck because it's not going to move very good. It's not going to have the storage, and you can no longer make it do any of the things that you'd want it to do if it was going to be your main ship, at least. So anyway, I'll quit with my rant, and you all have yourself a good day. I just wanted to show you where I'm at with this thing, and I'll keep on hitting it and try to get this interior figured out and figure out the style and looks that I want it to have. It's going to be a little different than the exterior. I don't want to paint it the same as the exterior of the ship, so it's probably going to be a little grayer, but I want it nice. I want it clean, new, fancy, high-tech, the whole thing that you would kind of expect from a Star Citizen style ship of this nature. So I'll have to figure out that. So it's going to be kind of fun experimenting with some different things. I'm sure it's going to have some of the elements of other ships that I made in it, or with the design stuff, but I'll try to mix it up a little bit and do it a little different to be its own thing. Anyway, y'all have yourself a great day, and I'll talk to you later.